All right, welcome back. And today we're going to be looking at 3 USA made knives. And I have a little surprise for you guys. I upgraded my lighting game. So without more delay, let's go ahead and get right into the tabletop review. Hopefully it should look a lot better now. Okay, welcome. Man, I'm really enjoying this new light setup already without any shadows. I am part of a knife exchange group where basically you send each other knives to review, to look at, and it helps with a sort of a discerning experience. So you get to experience all these knives without technically buying all of them. And if you get a chance to be part of a group like that, it can work out to be very, very good, especially for somebody who doesn't carry knives all the time like I do. So we have 2 Benchmates, the Osborne 940 and the Griptillian. I didn't think I would have anything to say that hasn't already been said, but after playing with them for a short period of time, I think there is a couple of things that I want to mention. So we're going to put this aside for the time being, and we're going to talk first about the Benchmade 940. Now this is the Blade HQ exclusive with G10 and M4 steel, black Cerakoted. Very, very pretty, no question. And it's also one of my favorite knives. In fact, if we open up my knife collection, I have my own 940. This was actually passed down to me from someone I lost, and it is probably my most valuable knife because of that fact. But more than that, I actually really enjoy this knife. What I did not expect is that there is one part about this knife that turns out to be completely different between the aluminum handles and the G10, and I'm not sure why this is. The 940 is very temperamental when it comes to the tension in the pivot, and that's really all I want to talk about with this. I mean, we know about M4, we know about all these things. The tension that you need to achieve with the 940 in the G10 is so specific. Now, this is a great example of a tool that you can use it because you can see how much of a difference the angle is. So if I tighten it down, and that's lightly tightened, it becomes much more difficult to drop. Now, that's not a problem for a lot of people, but if you like to fidget like I do, you want to loosen up a little bit. But you see how little I adjusted it, and I can already feel blade play. The difference between tight, too tight, and not tight enough is really, really small. So if you want to get this into a very specific tension, you're going to need Loctite, and you're going to need some form of screwdriver that you can tell exactly how far you're twisting it and playing with it until you get it exactly right. That's kind of annoying for me. I didn't notice that with my 940 that I've owned for a very long time. It works exactly the way I think it does. Now, I've heard what you need to do here is disassemble it, take out the washers, and do a treatment on those washers, and that by doing that you'll be able to tighten it much more while still maintaining that drop shut kind of situation that you get from a worked in 940. You could obviously just do it through working it in, but you may have to do that out of the box. Just something to keep in mind. And that's really the big thing that I want to talk about with this. I don't have much else to talk about except for this looks beautiful. And just like Andrew Demko, I believe that the G10 is probably one of the most underrated materials. The strength is just out of this world. I can't wait to try the SureTouch G10 rubber hybrid material and see if it's strong enough, because I think the grip it will offer combined with the rigidity of the G10 may end up being really, really good. I don't think Benchmade will ever offer that, but I've seen it in a number of places, and I'm looking forward to trying that as a material for handles. Another knife that I got is a Griptillian. Now, Griptilians have been around for a while. They're what they call their budget knives, which isn't really budget. But a couple of things I learned about the Benchmade Griptilian. Number one, these things are loud, and I mean really loud. Listen to this. Yikes. Ow. Like I didn't think many knives could be louder than the JMHO 80-20.5. But the Griptillian is loud when it opens and closes. Ouch. That may end up being kind of a big downside for some people. I know that sounds weird, but you don't necessarily want to announce yourself every single time you open a knife. And I think that you either love this or hate this about the Griptillian. But true to its name, what a great grip. I mean, that sounds cliche, but it is. The other thing that we get a chance to look at is serrations by Benchmade. And one thing I really like about these is the way they have begun and ended this section of serrations. They're shallow, which is very important. We don't want them to be too deep, otherwise they won't cut properly. And you need the beginning and the end to offer a spot to pull through the material. If you look, if you had fibrous material, it would fall up and get into this slot very quickly. And there's nothing for it to catch. The angle before the start is steep enough that something will fall off and into the serrations. A lot of times what happens is there's a sharp edge that's too close to 90, and what ends up happening is the fibrous material or rope gets caught up in here instead of in the serrations themselves. So I think this is done properly. You could even make it a little steeper, but in general, this should cut very, very well. I'm not a huge fan of partial serrations, but if you're going to have serrations, it's important that they're done well. And this is actually done fairly well. You still get a double-sided bevel for the straight section. It's not a chisel grind, which I like. And I think this is actually quite a nice offering for a work knife. Relatively inexpensive, but here's the problem. At $150, why not buy a Ritter Hogue with 20 CV steel at $159? That's what I don't necessarily understand about Benchmade in general. When you can buy the Hogue for so cheap with M390 or 20 CV, I should say, why would you get this? And I like 154 CM, which is what this is made out of. But I really think that it would have been better served to be at a price point that people get more attracted to. Like, what about 120? I think at this point, that's where we're sitting with a knife like this. 120 is about the most I want to pay for a knife with an FRN or, injection molded handle. You can get a lot today for that price point. And I think this is just, something that unfortunately they have to compete with. And I bring up the Ritter Hogue specifically because that's another American-made company. I don't think it's fair to compare this to companies outside the USA, but the Hogue, the mini and the full size are both comparable in price to the Griptillian. Now you might be able to find this a little bit cheaper, but the jump up is so dramatic with G10 handle scales and so on, 20 CV, that I think it's worth saving the money. The 940s are phenomenal, but when it comes to the Griptillian, I think I would rather have the Hogue. Just my personal opinion. I like the handle though, and I think that having something that is so full in your hand like this really says, put me to work. And this is a great working knife. I've already seen people use and abuse these. They absolutely will hold up. And that axis lock is just a good all-around lock because it's fully ambidextrous. And it just holds up. It holds up to abuse because all the pressure gets put back to the center point versus one side or the other like you would in a liner lock. Do I think it's as good as the Shark lock? Oh my God, no. I don't think there's a lock better than the Shark lock. That's just my personal opinion. But this is a new thing, and it's very expensive comparatively. The price actually, believe it or not, is very similar, even though this is AUS 10A and this is 154 cm. Give it some time, and I think it'll change. But Shark lock, Axis lock, I like both of these in that they are both ambidextrous and very, very durable. Very, very good locks. So let's move on. Next up, by Spyderco. I saw this on eBay brand new for under $100, and I literally could not say no. I have held off because, like many other knife geeks, they know that once you get this knife, you have a hard time justifying other knives because of its versatility. It's probably not the one you're thinking, though. This is the Native 5 Salt. The Native 5 Salt is a lockback knife made in the United States with a blade steel of LC200N. This is my favorite steel by a far margin because it is tough, it is corrosion proof almost, and it holds a very, very good edge. The usefulness of a knife like this that is exactly 3 inches or just under it, with a very, very good grip and basically what is a flawless steel choice. This is a no frills knife that you can take anywhere in the United States that is going to allow knives and be able to use it. It is one of the most versatile knives that you can currently buy because of the steel, because of the size. I'm not even a huge fan of small knives per se, but this one performs above its normal size range. It has a very, very large handle for a small knife. And this is something I've come to love. If I do buy small knives, I require that additional handle length, the ability to manipulate the handle and get my fingers all spread out. That's what should happen in small knives. Just because you have a small knife, 3 inches or less, does not mean you should also have a small handle. Otherwise, you're just not getting the benefits of being able to put it under real work. Now, if you carry knives as forms of jewelry, this won't matter to you that much. You like flippers, you like small flippers, you carry them, they're fun. This is something you carry that you love and enjoy. This probably isn't required for you, but when I carry a small knife, I want it to be usable. And what makes a small knife usable isn't the blade, it's the handle. Is the blade geometry important? Of course it's important. But if you don't have a comfortable handle that allows you to get the proper grips, be able to put the work in, it's not going to matter all that much. And the shape of this is damn near flawless. I'm not even a huge fan of choils, but when you put the choil as part of the handle, as you see here, it's the right way to integrate it. I have a Dragonfly, which also has this sort of cutout. And I gotta say, the fact that it's so small yet so capable really attracts me to it. I don't think Spyderco is the only company doing this, but they seem to do it consistently and do it very, very well. So the Native 5 Salt, in my opinion, the most versatile knife that you can buy because of its steel. It's a no frills knife. It doesn't snap open and flick open like a lot of the knives in my collection. But yeah, it's phenomenal. Sorry about that. Now, speaking of knife collections, this is my knife case. And this is the vault case, I should say. We should talk about this for a second. This is my vault case. And what I have done is I've allowed myself to only own a certain set of knives. If it doesn't fit in here, then I have to sell it. That's kind of the way I have ruled it. 3 budget knives, 3 small knives. And this is good enough to take up a slot. In the future, when we review new items, we are going to determine whether the item will just be something we review, or is it something that's going to make it into the permanent collection. The Native 5 Salt is here to stay. I don't know if every knife in this box is going to end up staying forever, but they're here now, and I'm pretty happy so far. I will be talking at some point about the Benchmade Adamas, both the mini and the full size, once I've done a couple outdoors, testing sessions. But as of right now, this is my knife collection and the ones that I actually keep. So that's it for today. And we will be discussing the Vault case this week. This will be a 5-month review of not just this case, but all 5 cases that I use to store my EDC. So stay tuned for that this week, and we will talk again soon. You guys have a good one.